the money which is being invested has all been happening almost on the same time frame so that they are able to address it. The research or a little bit of research which I do is actually on a lesser critical, so to say, level where there are within quote cheap devices which can be actually part of critical infrastructure. One example is all of us had some kind of a television which whenever you switch on will have the maximum volume and always we will do like this and it will come down. So all our interventions were physical, human interventions were there, responses were easy to see and so that you could actually gauge what you're doing. But with the sensors which we are talking about today, you don't get to see anything. But at the same time, you want your vehicle or your house to be cold before or optimum temperature before you enter. The geyser or the electric thing has to be properly done. And you have full faith in the technology behind it. Those devices can be much more critical than the critical infrastructure stress which we put on maybe oil and gas agencies or the other military equipments. The reason is these devices are not at all designed for security to begin with. You are not ready to buy a lighting equipment which is more secure and you wonder why it should be more secure. And what you are interested in, you should be able to increase the lumens by maybe your smartphone. And the moment you get it, you are more happy. The same thing applies to every device which you have in your homes. And that numbers are going to be more and more coming up. And where are you addressing it finally? You are addressing the security concern to a cottage industry in maybe some province in China. Now, this is the security which is coming up. And that is where IoT devices are coming in, which makes every infrastructure very, very critical. And again, it's not a frightening thing. Actually, I am on the other side. Maybe when I get the next part of it, I will say why we have to think of maybe appropriateness. Okay. So the point is, do not consider critical infrastructure as the ones which have to be water, air, or anything. It has to be every small device which you tend to use, including yours, everything which is supposed to be smart. All the smart watches, all the smart lighting equipments, everything is going to be critical because that smartness comes with that challenge. So that's an interesting area to work on and maybe appropriateness comes in there. The point is security has to be by design, cannot be an afterthought and cannot be fully kind of a legal concern. This is my point. Maybe I will take it in the next part. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Professor Vinod. Professor Hiran.
Thank you, sir. Hi. So, I'll start from Vinod sir have talked. So, he has said about the smart devices which we have. So, from the common scenario, how it is manufactured, how these devices are manufactured. Like now, if you earlier, if you see the network devices which we used to have, they are maybe around, they will come as around 42,000 or 50,000 INR, India rupees. But now we could get it for maybe 8,000, 7,000, 8,000 with the same, whatever they claim to be is of the same quality, and we'll be using that because basically we'll be always going with the same specification, with the same, whichever comes as the market with the lowest code. So we'll be using that. So basically whatever we faces is the BYOD, these devices, these smart devices, their laptops, all these brings in threats and which are not actually cannot be connected to a multi-vendor. Most of the products which are designed is maybe a company will design a product, their products has to be connected, then the entire thing will be secure. It's not like a multi-vendor compatible thing. Even though we say IEEE or 3GP or whatever the rule we say, who is making these protocols, it's not coming into the same platform. It's not we cannot connect multi-vendor devices. We cannot bring all these devices together and get a log, and maybe even to an SIEM, we cannot bring all these events together and correlate it. So unless we will miss many of these threats, basically like once you come to the EOD and other things, like you maybe I'll bring my device, I may be going to the Tor network, the dark web, or whatever it is. I will be going maybe like next day I'm in the office and I'm connecting my laptop to the office network, or like the same thing would happen. Like I might be using a pirated software. Maybe the official software itself has problems. Like what about the pirated software? That's a second this level. So like I might come bring that to the campus or the organization and create a issue to the entire network, like the ransomware infection, which could spread from my laptop, it could start and it could spread over the network. So these, I think like there is a serious threat. By that, I will stop for the time being. And like,
Yeah, we have looked at the concerns. So when it comes to industry level, we can see that many a time the security breaches where may not be known to people. The people who work there may be unaware of what is happening. So Namit was talking about whether the attacker was leaving or coexisting. So many a time the attacker may be coexisting with us, and say it's an autonomous vehicle. We may be traveling with the attacker, and maybe a smart home. Maybe we may be living with the attacker. We may not know. So unless that creates some physical thing, until then we may not know that such a thing. Suppose you are locked up, you cannot enter your house, yes, smart house, or you cannot get out of your car, autonomous car. Then you come to know that you were traveling with or you were living with the attacker. So that is true with many of the organizations also. So until that happens, we may not know that. So so that concern is real. Then about this data collection also, what happens is these devices being tampered, and there also we may not know that actually these devices are being tampered. And are we collecting the right data or not? So any decision maker, when they use the wrong data collected from these devices, so what we call it in machine learning, garbage in, garbage out. So you are getting garbage and you are getting garbage out also, and that can happen at any point of time. So while collecting the data, or while you process it, or while you get the insights, at any stage that can happen. And when you use the devices, we have to see that we are using standard devices, we are following the regulatory requirements. And thing is that many a time information security policies, they enforce only you can use these kinds of things. You cannot say, many organizations, they have some kind of policies. You should not be accessing these kinds of sites. So if you access, that means maybe for something, no, you get some free things there. But along with that, it could be a standard package. You get some malicious software also along with that when you download it. So following that. So at device level also, you have to follow that discipline. So that is something. If you don't follow, you'll get into that, and these are some of the concerns. Now let us look at what are the possible solutions we can think about.
Yes, sure. I think one of the questions we are facing now, which is very critical, is that of centralization. Now, somebody attacks your database. Now, the problem what we saw in Australia, also in India, the same thing is that it's easy accessibility, and number two is the financial gain. If you combine both of them, it makes somebody, motivated. And that comes from the human-computer interaction psychology factors. But what we are seeing now is that today we have got technology. We've got blockchain. We've got decentralization of finance. Now, I was looking at one of my paper was published over here at Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, where I talk about CBDC. Now, central bank digital currency, as you know, in India, they are rolling out. So one of the arguments I make is that of decentralization in fintech. If you do not put all your data in one place, you remove the motivation factor, you remove the financial factor, and also the harder you make, the more difficult it becomes for somebody, because you see the psychology of a hacker is that they don't want to work hard, but they want to make maximum financial gain. So if you make somebody climb Mount Everest tomorrow morning, I would say 99.99% people will say I can't do it. But if you train somebody up over the years, look, this is Mount Everest and that's the peak you have to climb. I give you 5 years, they will start working. So in cybersecurity, the psychology works the same way. Somebody who has to do very hard work, they will say, no, I don't want to do this. It's maybe I may not be successful. I may not even get $100, and they will give up and they will start doing something. But if you put all your treasure in one place, all your diamonds, jewel, necklace, gold, everything, definitely in centralization, people are going to break in. They know the treasure is here, and that is why we say blockchain. If you look at today, Bitcoin, why Bitcoin works autonomously, it's decentralized because it's a distributed ledger. There's no one person sitting there pressing button. And that has taught us things like Ethereum. If you look at this crypto verse, what we are looking at is these are technologies that we can, embed now, and we can use it from our phone without the hacker, because the data is changing so fast. Somebody cannot go within 1 nanosecond. Now 1 nanosecond is I put my eyelid down and I look up. That's 1 nanosecond. No one can change the codes of 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion computers. It's a lot of hard work. You will have to go every computer and change the registry and then change nobody can do it. So we have to look at decentralization. The future is of decentralization. Do not keep the data at one place. Distribute it across. Even cloud is not safe, but I would say still, if you put person's name, address, telephone number, you've given everything. Name, address, telephone number, passport, everything is gone on the internet. But if you do this on a blockchain, there's no identity. No person's name is only numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Like in Australia, they are doing. You walk to the gate, there's nobody. You don't need a passport. I was surprised. All they do is that scan my face. That's it. Gate opens, you go. Singapore is doing the same thing. 2024, you will travel to Singapore. You don't need a passport, and your data will be destroyed. And that is also data privacy. Singapore government is saying the moment you will walk out of the gate, 5 minutes later, your data is destroyed. But if you've got any issues, you are not the right person, then they will start, catching the bad actors here. So I think technology is getting better, and we can use that technology today to basically make it harder. The more harder you make, the more difficult you'll take that financial incentive out, because these people, they don't want to work hard. They might be smart, but if they think in 2 hours I can't make $10,000, why should I do this? That is what we need to do here.
Thanks, Professor Sandhu. It's a big point in that. So what essentially being done by the industry and experts is to make the attack harder. So the common people cannot do. Those who have all the resources possibly may be able to do this. Otherwise, they can't touch it. So we may be aiming at such a kind of solution. I think that is going to be the solution for the future. Thanks, Professor Sadhu, for the suggestion. Yeah. So we'll start with Kalpana. Archana, sorry.
About the solutioning part, how to deal with. As we consider the cybersecurity issues and challenges or the hacking attempts, as of today, at least I can say there are only two types of attack. Either it is a nation-based attack or a attack which targets on the data. So the first case, it will be like a brand image, your reputation, or challenging your national security. That is the motive. Second should be a data, like they want to have the access to the database of the particular people so that they can use it for a marketing or their purposes. In both the situations, The nationwide attack, it has to be done in a policy level. For example, in the G20 summit, when it was happened, there was some group of Malaysian hackers. They intentionally published that they are going to give the ransom amount to the group who successfully attacked the Indian websites and the national websites. So, and some of the people actively participated also in that particular case. So, against a nation which hosts the G20 summit, such a thing, no, and publishing it in the complete world that we are going to promote this activity. So, the cyber criminals or the hackers, they have got to a different level. They are not afraid of any people or any laws. So the fact is that they cannot be identified. At some part of the place, they are sitting down and writing these stories and attacking the entire nations who participate in G20. So that was the quantum of attack. To protect that, what we have to do is we have to implement the policies, technologies, procedures in place so that, as Sa said, attacking can be made harder. They will take more time to attack. That is the only practical solution available. So how we have to implement it is basically the policies should be framed and should be implemented with the help of technology and people. These are the one way. The second part, the data, there is always a data owner, uh, whether we know or no. For my personal data, I am that owner. If I am sharing it in the web space, in the digital world, intentionally, for example, I am taking the photo of this particular conference in my phone, and if I am posting in my social media platform, I am the owner, and whatever the consequence happens, I am sharing it to the world. So I should be the owner, and I should take it seriously, and I should practice it. So that are the two solutioning part from the part. Technology can help us, but it is all up to the human behavior and the human nature. We have to make it.
Thank you, Archana. Now we move on to Professor Vinod.
Okay. So, first of all, the solution is that security doesn't come up suddenly. It has to be engineered in that way itself. It has to be designed. And specifically in the context of the small devices or light power devices, my point is that the entire community has been very orthodox. I would say has been using inappropriate things, okay? And to a great extent, I would say we are not creative. Now, we include the academic side, and I will put it one by one. For example, if you look at the users, the security is defined as a sense of or a feeling where you believe that the threats and the responses to it are balanced. I will repeat. You know that there are threats and there are defense mechanisms also. Everywhere, for a user, feeling secure means you know that these threats and the countermeasures are balanced. Unfortunately, the user is also inappropriate because for us in all these domains, this feeling comes from branding. When you use a certain brand of devices, when you use a certain brand of things, you assume that it is more secure. The moment the human beings do that, these brands, whether it could be the people who are on the board, CISO, CIO, they feel that it's their responsibility to be orthodox because already there have been people who have been orthodox saying that security means branding. The next step is that due diligence. Now, due diligence is something which goes along well with legal entities, well with customers, board, maybe stocks, everything. So due diligence again brings in more orthodox aspect to it, where they think that there should be standard reports which should be referred to, values and statistics which are available. And the moment you have it, you again want the big names, the big products, the big things, which are again coming down as orthodox and further branding. Now you go one more level down. If you are a company who is trying to create value out of it, is it really proper or possible to start what we call as a disruption in this field? Disruption is too risky if the whole ecosystem is very orthodox. So instead of being disruptive or coming out with a new thing, you will still think of hardening the shells which are already being made, being more orthodox. So you start from the user, go to the branding part, the CIO or CISO in the thing, and what will they buy, what will they use? Again, the products which are supposed to be coming in the same orthodox way, again things are which are done that. Now you come to the last but not the least, the researchers and the academia. What will we do? Already there has been a solution, and how to make it slightly better, slightly improved. And are you guaranteeing again appropriateness? Not required, because we want a small improvement on something which has already been accepted. So what is the right solution for that? I believe starting from academia, there has been many algorithms or even many approaches which were kept aside, because at that point of time, maybe these kind of small scale devices were not there, or the concerns were different. So we should be bold enough to, or creative enough to take up things which were thrown out earlier for a different reason, or come out with things which are in one sense again breaking the standard idea, because this area doesn't come jump after one after the other. There is no linear thing. That's what again I wanted to say. Don't think that banks were unsafe in the beginning. Now everything is unsafe, and different levels require different level of appropriate technology used. Unfortunately, information security, when you look at in the entire context, we see inappropriateness where we use the same kind of land movers even when we want to be, maybe a needle is the ideal thing to be used. Now we still have the same kind of a problem. I believe we have to break that. And in the case of IoT and other devices, think fresh. Blockchain is a technology. Even blockchain is too heavy in many sense. Okay. If you have a lighter thing where the requirement of security is for 5 seconds, 2 seconds, if you're using something which is meant for years, it's totally inappropriate. So going for appropriateness every level will be helpful, because it will be good for the ecosystem to start with. Startups will be focusing more on, not on fairy tale scenarios or not on hardening things which are there. They're going to be again creative. Gives a chance for academicians also to be creative, and gives again CIOs and CISOs to be more professional, I would say, rather than diligent. Thank you. That's my point.
Thanks, Professor Vinod. Now, here.
Thank you, sir. So, like, I'll start from the, like, my experience when I was in both IDRBT and Revit. So, like, which is actually part of the regulators. Like, both these organizations are belonging to RBI. So, like, there, whatever, like at that time, whatever we were focusing on, like initially, maybe around 2013 period, we were focusing more on the last mile connectivity, like where they used to have a classic phones, or the internet connectivity is not that much great. We used to bring the connectivity to that extent. So from where they used to, like, that's what we have started. At that time, we need to bring it to the last mile. Everyone has to be connected to the financial segment. That's what one of the mandate which was there. And like from where and one of the major thing is like the devices which are costly. At that time, initially, it was a huge discussion there where ATM devices itself is costing crores, and like we cannot keep ATM devices there. Like, and one of the because of its costly, and then we have started some part of indigenization in that and we can we face some issue related to incorporating it with the existing domain, existing the entire domain, means the banking domain. So then we went with the Linux and customization and all those things. We there were a lot of open source concept which was brought in, and customization was done. That was also. So basically what we tried is we tried to bring all these into a standard, into a system where they were not actually part of. So we need to do lot of activities to bring that into the current system, which was not programmed to be accepting these type of devices. They were traditionally made for certain type of devices. So the same thing applies for all our the smart devices and the switches and the routers, which are now made by small companies. The same thing is applicable. So that's why to incorporate all the devices, there should be certain regulations or certain awareness which has to be brought down so that everyone cannot use a standard software or something to bring to get all the logs, everything correlated. So like once we keep certain devices together, like there won't be any, even if there's an attack happens, no one is going to aware of this has happened because the log, we cannot connect the dots. Like as sir was saying, like 7 years logs you have connected to bring down the entire history. So that we cannot connect. Once we cannot connect the logs, we cannot bring anything into the table. We can, the forensic investigation itself will fail. So that's why we should be able to bring all the softwares, all these devices, all the network devices, everything should be having a system to bring those logs together and bring into a common platform where the blockchain and the like the AI ML concepts could be incorporated, and like that will give some intelligence to us and also the awareness to the public. So is saying that there is some issue in the like I'll finish by just saying the last part, like because like I have just initially started with the usage of the softwares, like the illegal softwares or maybe the pirated software. Like it was from my own study, like we used to do forensic and we like there was no difference between the an antivirus which we have brought and which we have downloaded from the hackers forum. So, but finally we investigated, we reverse engineered and we investigated. Like it was creating a backdoor and it was planning that backdoor in the system only information folder of the Windows, and like it at the time of installation itself, it will start communicating. So, like that awareness also has to be brought in, and what all happens from a system that has to be like we used to say network admission control. Network admission control. That means I bring a machine to the table, like I would be able to get access to this network. So at that time itself, what all my health, that proper health inventory has to be also going to the entire system, SAEM system. So that's what I feel like has to be brought in. Yeah, thank you.
Professor Sandhu.
I think you brought a very good point, and that is about a unified system. A unified, and that is where it's not happening because we have got, see, the IT industry for a long time has been dominated by Microsoft. An American company, there's nothing wrong with it. Every country has got something to offer to the world. But when you look at the, in America, there's a law that you cannot have cartels. Like, they banned the cartels under, I think, under President Nixon. But what we saw was that cartels does not allow innovation. If one company dominates the industry, IT industry and Windows, and we do not have any other competitor, very few of them. Now we've got Google Android system, which is on smartphones. But I think that was a very good point that I just now heard from Kiran, is that a unified system that can run blockchain, can run on Windows. Now, at this time, Android will not allow you to run another operating competitive system, or you will not be allowed to run another, Chrome browser or another browser, or Microsoft will block you from, installing. But I think this will have to change. This will, and the mindset, the leadership, it's happening in Europe. In Europe, EU is fining these companies. Even Google has been fined, Microsoft has been fined, and they said, like, if you want to do business, you have to open up your systems, allow unified, systems to come in and operate, and competition is good. Even here in India, it will happen. Sooner or later, it will happen because India and China are the two big dominant markets. I know like there are a lot of disagreement between the two countries, but when it comes to consumer market, I know both the countries have got one thing to help people. Both countries want people to come out of poverty, education, schools, universities, hospital, healthcare. And what you need is a good computer system. And if we do not have competition, we do not have more operating system, we don't have more Indian companies coming into this space, why can't we have a competition in this? India is the world leader in IT. We provide the world solution from this country, this soil. We provide the world support. Why can't we have our own operating system, where a system that works best? India has got Aadhaar. India has got other, like, unified payment system on the phone. Like phone, I've been looking at how good the financial system is here. You've got so many choices here. Like here, you can pay by phone, you can pay by, so many different forms of payment system. And I think operating system is a starting point where you will have, because Microsoft does not provide source code. Do you know, many of you, what is inside Coca-Cola? Everybody drinks Coke, but we don't know the recipe for Coke. And source code is the one that allows the program to run on its platform. And only time Microsoft did that when Hu Jintao, the president of China, told Microsoft, if you don't give us the source code, we are going to go with another company. And that time Bill Gates personally took his private jet and flew to Beijing next morning. He said, don't do that. Microsoft will be, bankrupt. And that was the first time they traded the source code. No country or company knows the source code. You want to install a program on Microsoft Windows, you want to run something on it, you need to understand how it's performing, and they don't provide you. So one of those, difficulties it is. But if you've got an open source code, no problem. You can run any software, any program on it. So we have to understand the root problem. Where is the root problem? And cybersecurity will be there for a long time to come. As one of our speakers also mentioned here, it's not going to be solved very quickly. It's systemic, it's built into the system. But one thing that will happen is that newer chips will make it harder, like NVIDIA, because they are artificially embedded. So you cannot run like artificial intelligence on, on your classical computers, because it will need modernization, and slowly they will, phase out, weed out the old hardware, software, and the new one will come. But that will slowly decline the problem. But another thing that I want to quickly point out is quantum. So I'm doing work on quantum computing. There will be mass transition into the quantum system, because we will retire the classical computers. All these computers, classical computers, they will be retired in the next 5 to 10 years, and quantum can do 10,000 years. Calculation that a classical computer will do can be done in 28 seconds. 28 seconds, 10,000 years of calculation, 28 seconds, a quantum computer can do it. So that's the power of technology we are looking at. And in Japan, they're already trialing with robots. Japan is getting old, population's getting old, there's no young babies coming up, so they're relying on robots. And those robots will be basically AI driven. They can make a cup of tea for you, they can sing your poetry, they can sing your story. You need human interaction when you're old. 80-year-old person, he's sitting alone. There has to be somebody in his home to look after him, provide the hospital with the data, like his heart pressure is, or blood pressure, or whatever he is he's okay, or he's not sick, or he's not suffering, or he's not died. So hospitals will be using that data to monitor people who are staying at home. So Japan is a very good example for us, because India, Australia, and US will be there in next 10 years. Our population will get old. And who's going to look after it? Because hospitals were never made for millions of people. If you walk into a hospital today, there's a waiting list. People will be told to stay at home, and they will be monitored through these robotic technologies, artificial intelligence, by specialized experts who are sitting away in different countries also. And this is coming. We all will get old. We all will get old, but nobody decides. People think, okay, today I'm young, I'm working, I'm going to get a house one day, I'm going to buy a car one day, I'm going to go out to my child's wedding. But you see, one day you get old, who's going to look after us? In Australia, there's population getting old, there's no children there to look after parents. They are in aged care hospitals, and hospitals are full. Nursing care center, they don't have space. 10 years, 15 years waiting time, $2 million you have to give a deposit before even you can get your name into it. So it is very big problem, and healthcare will be a very big issue, but we will need this technology. Quantum and artificial intelligence will help us. People who are lonely, you want to talk to somebody at home at that age. You don't have a child, no grandchildren, maybe your partner has died, and you're all alone at home. How much TV can you watch? How much TV can you watch? You'll get bored. You want to talk. And robot will be like a human. There will be no separation, no difference between a human. They will sing. It's happening in Japan. As I speak, it's happening in Japan. They can make you a cup of tea, sit with you, and there's no difference. They will even look like humans. In Netherlands, Amsterdam and all, they've got robots that look like the same. Whether you want a boy or a girl, exactly they will design you. There's no difference. You can even charge them all night, whatever battery is required. Next day, it's working for you non-stop. Industrial productions, factories will depend on those things. Elon Musk has got a whole factory plan on those lines of artificial intelligence. So I think it was a very good point. I think I thought like I should congratulate the speaker here. Unified system. We need a unified system that's going to work across all different platforms.
Yeah. Thanks, Professor Santhu. Any comments by audience? Okay.
Hi, myself Rajesh. So I'm working in Tata Lex in automotive cybersecurity. So my question was on a point raised by Professor Vinod. So you were saying that okay, design secure by design is the principle we should follow basically. So it should not be an afterthought. Security should not be an afterthought. But there's still okay. Along with that, or with equal importance, should we also think about adding more agility or adaptability to the solutions that we design? Because today's design principles may not be the same for tomorrow. And whatever we design, how much we secure today, it may not be a case. Okay, as Professor Chantu mentioned also, the quantum computing. Okay, more easy solutions are coming. So should we also focus on making the systems more adaptable to newer or upgrading security along with the design, secure by design?
I think hitting to the market at the right time is the biggest challenge for the industry. But when you look at it, there are programming languages which are supposed to be more safe. I'm just giving an example. Type safe languages are there, but then maybe we would still prefer PHP because it's easy to get workforce in that. Okay, and hitting the market at a later point in time is always of no use from an industry perspective. But the point is, yes, we want to be agile, we want to be continuing and evolving at the same time. Uh, at least in there are certain domains where the initial investment is not so high. Okay, in those situations, it's important that we design it rightly, securely, and if required, do the change. Now, that is something which is not very convincing, for example, for auto industry. One something is that they want to use it for a longer period of time, but many of the components are not made out of dice now in an automobile compared to a previous time. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're using those things which can be changed, okay, at the point of making something, make it using the best design principles and best engineered product. If the life goes out, because the initial investment is not going to be that high, so you always have a chance of changing it. When you do not have an option to change quickly, obviously you need to give priority to agility again and then how to improve it. Okay, but the moment you try to build a very secure wall, okay, on a very earthquake active area, there is a problem, because the first thought has to be how the soil is, how the area is, rather than maybe making a wall out of it.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, sure.
On that, I have to add one more thing. There is, you might have heard about DevSecOps, which so you might have heard of DevSecOps, which is like the security along with the development. So if in simple terms, I can tell you, we are having some tools like Jira and all, where we can integrate to the source code itself. So when the person actually does the coding, if there is some vulnerabilities like easily, not with a complete sort of testing, but can be identified, so that the SQL injection or the normal cross-site scripting, this DevSecOps tools like Acronetics or something, they can identify it and can throw out then and there. So the coder can at the same time, he can correct it. That is one of the practices which is coming up. It's not completely full-fledged or the industry is not matured, but there are something happening in that area,
Yeah.
which gives the agility as well as the security.
Thanks. So basically, okay, my point was, okay, once the product is out in the market, so how we ensure that the security is renewed every time dynamically, considering whatever development happening from the other perspective.
Yeah. We can take one more question. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Nijesh. I'm also from Tata Elxsi. So I just wanted to make one point regarding this unified system Professor Santhu also just mentioned about. So I would like to understand, while the unified systems are in terms of standardization, right? So standardization, of course, helps for faster development life cycle, etc. But at the same time, it opens the architecture to the entire world as well. So that will add additional vulnerability into the system, right? I'm basically from an automotive background. So, the major trend there is software-defined vehicles. It's more like, the cars are becoming like mobile phones, where the car's electronic system architecture is getting exposed. Traditionally, it was not like that because OEMs keep their architectures confidential, so that the chances for someone getting into the system is normally less. But now the things are changing. So I would like to understand your view on, like, the systems are becoming more exposed. So will it add more vulnerability into the system?
A very good point. Now, across the industry, I'll give you an example. Last 50 years, let's look at last 50 years. What did we have? We have computer system that was working. We had computer system that did the job. I mean, it wasn't a great job, but they did. We didn't have much choice. Now, what we didn't see was interoperability. Now, what I mean by interoperability is that you can run your Android on a Mac. On a Mac, you can run Android. We can't do that. Today, if you look at Windows, Microsoft has, and that's why the problem starts here, because these, not that they cannot run, it's just that these companies are not allowing consumer the choice. Now, you do not, and with standardization also comes, we need to provide people choices. In India, it's a country of 1.4 billion people, and everybody's got a different. Some is Mac users. In my family, the same thing. Some are Mac users, some is Android. I'm Android, because I use the Google platform, but my son, he's on Mac. So these are the things, we need to understand in the future how they're going to play. And that's why I use the word interoperability, because I had a PhD student. She was from Poland, and she looked into interoperability of the systems, because we were doing a very big project at that time. I was a senior research fellow at University of South Australia. So we were looking at critical infrastructure. Now, critical infrastructure can run on any platform, but what we was seeing, that there was a lot of obstacles, a lot of limitations that the system won't allow. And she basically was developing her PhD thesis into why these interoperability systems can be allowed across different platforms, regardless of what you want to use. You should be given a choice on your Android whether you want to run Mac, Windows, but it's not happening today. If you look at it, none of these systems have got interoperability. Sometimes you can't even open up a file or a folder. An email you get, you've got an attachment, you cannot open it. Even happens with Adobe. 2 weeks back, they updated my system in my office, and after that, what happened, all my files won't open. So that is a very critical issue. But you see, this issue is being solved at EU. That's a landmark case is happening over there, where these companies are losing, because EU is saying, you want to do business on EU soil, you have to make sure that interoperability is there. It's a fair play. Competition is allowed, and that's very good, because cost of the technology will come down, monopoly will come down, because today Microsoft is a monopolistic business, because it dominates 98% of the world's machine operating platform. You don't have a choice. Can you get support for Windows 95 on your computer today? No. You ring up Microsoft, on the website, there's no support, because they already retired the software. But a lot of people are still using. A lot of companies are still using Windows NT. They are using on the back end. They are using, But the thing is that those companies are not fixing up the problems, not fixing up the bugs. They're just going into the next version and trying to make a money business, forcing us to buy. You don't need the next version of Windows. You rather fix that problem up. We can be happy with that. It works perfectly fine. We do not need. But the thing is that their revenue model. Now every year you have to pay rent with Microsoft. Otherwise, they will lock up your system. In America, you have to put your credit card, information. You cannot open your files. Now they are making money. It's become a business. And as we were talking this morning, it's all about money. It's driven by the motivation of finance. How money is driving the business model, rather than how consumers are, issues and problems should be solved. And that is why we were talking about the unified system. But the unified system will only work if there's interoperability. We as consumer will have the choice, not Microsoft, not IBM, not like sort of a Google will tell us what we can do or what we cannot do. But the good thing about what we see is decentralization, is that my personal feel is that in the next 5 years, we will have at least 2 or 3 more operating systems. And what we might see is another new version of internet. because the one that we have got is in a very bad shape. It's broken. It's got problems, and it's got cybersecurity issues. Sooner or later, people will say, "Look, I do not want to live in a broken car or a broken home." You know, that is the problem, and people will say that, because people are spending money. It's big money these companies are spending, banks are spending, small business are spending, and what do they get back in return? Cybersecurity, cyber attack. You won't go to a shopping center and buy a fridge, brand new fridge, and come back home 2 days later it's blown out, or a TV that's blown out. You will say, "Look, I paid for a good product in good faith, my hard-earned money. I want a product that's going to last at least 10 years or 20 years." These sort of goods. But that is the problem here. These systems are not being built according to the standards, and we've got a big problem here.
Thanks, Professor Santhu. So we conclude the session. So the some of the proposed solutions. So generally, it is very difficult, and there is no permanent solution for this. So things to make it more tougher for attackers to handle. So that is the thing, make it harder. So we can try with methods like unified techniques for manufacturing both hardware and software, then standardization, and maybe look for disruptive solutions, not incremental solutions, but maybe disruptive solutions, then make people more accountable. So all these are possible solutions. And I have a suggestion also, go for whitelisting rather than blacklisting. So what we do now is blacklisting. No, we say that, okay, these are the malicious software, you blacklist them. But rather than we can whitelist. My system, these are the only things which can run. Nothing else can run. So that way also we can approach this. So thanks everyone for the participation. Thanks the panel members also. Thank you.
Thanking the panelists and all the participants. Now we move for lunch, which has been arranged at Sarovar, which is on the 5th floor of the same building. So after which we'll be coming back for the